Good afternoon and welcome to the Joy Show. Joy being an acronym for just one you. I am so grateful that you're here, and wherever you are in the world, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I want to start with our land acknowledgement. We are sharing this land. The land that we're meeting on is the land of many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island, and this is home. We acknowledge and thank the original caretakers and knowledge keepers of the territory, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. We also give thanks to all other Indigenous peoples, recorded and unrecorded, who have shared responsibility for this territory. In honoring the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, which protects this territory, we accept our responsibility to peaceably share and care for the resources that surround us. We also acknowledge, as inhabitants of these lands, the inequity and discrimination continue to affect our BIPOC and 2S LGBTQ+ family. We therefore strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. Recognizing our oneness and acknowledging our reality, past and present, we commit to moving forward in a spirit of mutual cooperation. We are one. Please take a moment to honor the stewards of the land where you find yourself. Miigwech, thank you. Well, today, my guest, a phenomenal woman, perfect for today's topic, that's for sure. Cheryl Pauchuk is a dedicated mindfulness grief coach with over 25 years of experience. She has a passion for coaching individuals dealing with grief, loss, and fear. As a Reiki master, Kundalini yoga teacher, and spiritual practitioner, she has extensive knowledge of how grief and loss affect the mind, body, and spirit. She combines these modalities to create processes that promote healing on all levels. Meeting people where they're at, Cheryl works with groups and individuals via her private practice and as a volunteer at her local hospice. She helps those who have experienced loss in various forms, such as death, divorce, dismissal, or other life changes. Her goal is to educate people and businesses on the impact of grief and to help heal hearts. You can find her on Facebook, and Deja will be putting those links into the chat. Currently, Cheryl lives part-time in Mexico, where she introduced Death Cafes, now a monthly gathering. And she intends to retire in Mexico with her husband, Paul, and to continue to educate and support those suffering from loss and grief. She's also a Course in Miracles student and teacher and continues to master her own mental muscle and live in the realm of love only. So beyond her love of, helping people through grief, she has a passion for food. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about sharecrows.org. Welcome, Cheryl. I am so happy to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time. We're way past due for a conversation.
We truly are. We truly are. Now, what got you working in this grief scenario? What was the impetus for that?
Really, it was a gift from COVID, I have to say, and all that we went through. I had to, like everybody else, stop working, stop seeing clients. My practice basically came to a halt, and I was just trying to sit back and say, what am I going to do here, and just reinvent myself and how I do it. And and I kind of took a good look at all my clients and why they were coming, and whether they were coming originally for one reason, but it always seemed to boil down to we were dealing with grief. I'd say 90% of the time. And it just hadn't been really labeled by myself and or my client. So, we have such a stigma around grief and what that means. So, not only have I shifted my practice perspective, but, like you said, from an educational platform, I think it's just so important for us to really talk about the elephant in the room, and that's grief and death. And though, they're two different things, because grief isn't always just about death. So, yeah.
That's an important thing to think about. I mean, there was grief around being locked in. There was grief around our children not being able to go to school. There was grief around loss of income. There was grief around having to be vaccinated in order to go back to work. I mean, it's like the list could be a mile long on
Yes.
all of the things. And I don't think we tend to, other than death, we don't really label these other things that interrupt our life as grief.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're not taught anything about grief. Our tools are minimal at best. So, yeah, the list is long, and COVID brought about a lot of fear,
Yes.
and even talking. When I was seeing my clients on Zoom, kind of unpacking that fear. A lot of it was grief, right? They're missing their conversations with at the water cooler, or seeing clients, or going out for parties or receptions with clients and colleagues and whatnot. So just having that time away from the family, people, we value that. And the reverse actually happened when we started to go back to work, right? We got so used to showing up and dressed from here up and starting our day 5 minutes after we rolled out of bed, and now we were back in the car commuting, and then we're back in the office and the boardroom, and we're working different shifts, so we're still not seeing our colleagues. So like you said, the list was so long.
Really, really long. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I came across that, I've heard from other people is there were a lot of deaths during COVID, and you couldn't have a proper funeral or celebration of life or whatever. You could only have 10 people in the room, and everybody had to be masked. It was you couldn't hug each other. It was like you were being policed in the funeral homes. And when I would do a funeral, you'd have 10 people in the room and 200 people on Zoom. And I mean, the bonus was you'd have people from all over the world. So I think keeping Zoom going for memorial services is a really beautiful idea, because the people who can't actually attend physically because they're out of town or out of the country or whatever, everybody can now join. So that part, I think, is a win. But the fact that one of the funerals I did, the wife was just bereft, and I went up to her, and she, we just grabbed each other and said, well, if they want to arrest us or whatever, go ahead. But I want to hold this woman because she was in deep, deep grief, and her heart was broken. It's like we need to touch each other. There has to
Absolutely.
be physical contact, and we've missed that. And people are struggling a little bit, really coming back to in person.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's grief too, because we were afraid, but
Yeah,
we missed that. And like you said, we need that. We are meant to be in community. We're meant to touch. We're, minimum, what is it, 30, 20 hugs a day or something. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah, but that's one of the big, myths, and one of the programs I facilitate is, there's so many myths about grief, and one of them is to grieve alone. And we were kind of forced to grieve alone during COVID.
yeah.
And a lot of us grow up with that myth, whether it's, cultural or just, programmed automatic thinking. But, in reality, it's one of the worst things we can do for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think too in North America, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in North America, it's like you're expected to kind of hide it.
Yeah.
Even if you're at a funeral or whatever, you don't cry. If you're going to cry, make it nice and soft and quiet so it doesn't disrupt anybody.
Yeah.
And I have to say, for the very first time, when I went to my mom's funeral a year ago, May, I absolutely just sobbed And I just let it. I thought, I'm not holding this in. This is the grief of my dad's death. This is the grief of my mom's death, and now my stepmom, who I was very close to. It's like all of them together. It was like I was letting all of that out from years of withholding that. And I had done services for my dad, but this service I wasn't doing. So I had that moment to just sit and be in the sadness that I was feeling. And I think that was very healing for me, to allow myself to go there,
Yeah.
because in North America we don't do that. We just
No.
suppress, get depressed because we suppress. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I kind of describe us, and we're like a boiling kettle with a cork, right? And we suppress, and we just, oh, it's okay, and it's like, and then we have a loss, whether it's a loved one or a job or a relationship,
election results.
and election results, and that's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that cork goes flying out of the kettle, and there's
it's a mess.
big, huge mess, right? But it's a mess that has been released, and it's a good thing. And there's ways to start recognizing when we are feeling grief, when we are experiencing loss, and how that's showing up for us, that lets us kind of always keep that kettle more on a simmer, a low, slow simmer. So we don't have these explosive emotional releases, which, sequentially, as we, deal with our emotions, we're releasing that stress from our body, because, as we all know, we keep that stuff inside, and we just ultimately something's, stops working properly.
Yeah, it's going to make us sick for sure. So what are some of the steps, or what are some of the things that people can do to, number one, acknowledge that there's a grieving process going on, but how to work through it?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things I always like to start the conversation with is through the grief recovery method, which is one of the programs that I facilitate. We cover off some of the myths, which I always find really interesting to just kind of share with people, and then have them go and just kind of sit with them and just see where they've come up in their own lives. And one of those is, don't feel bad, and, of course you're going to feel bad. You just, lost somebody or something that you love. But that's our own uncomfortableness, right? That we don't know what to do with someone who shows up in an emotional mess, right? We're just like, oh, don't feel bad. Have a cookie, or I'll mix you a drink, have a glass of wine, right? Which is, a Band-Aid that's not helpful in any way. So
rather than just sitting with them and being there without, because there aren't any words that are going to make a difference.
There aren't any words. No. Showing up to just to be a heart with ears, which is one of our expressions, is probably the kindest, most gentle, beautiful thing you can do. And just do it. Just show up, right? Like I said, we're so uncomfortable in our uncomfortableness around grief and death that it's nice just to show up for somebody and do something, right? We always say, when you want to get out of your own headspace, just go be in service, right?
Just sit there. If you see something that needs to be done, then do it, and then just sit. But don't ask them what they need. They have no idea what they need in that moment.
Just make the lasagna and show up, or put it in the freezer. Go cut the lawn, or just grab a few things from the grocery store.
And just sit beside them and let them cry or rant or whatever's going on.
And that's another thing I love to make people aware of, and I can't remember the name because it's got like 52 letters in it, but there's actually a chemical in our tears of grief that actually heals our pain. So I always encourage people to, if they're crying, cry. Even for yourself, if you're sitting there, we have a tendency, right? Because we're always taught to, pat our eyes and, don't let anybody know you're upset or crying.
Mhm.
But just to let those tears flow.
Let them flow.
It
Absolutely.
is actually physically, chemically healing for us to cry.
It's funny to hear that because I have always told people that tears are the way we heal our grief. It's and I'll say it's spirit's gift that we just
Yeah,
let this out and it's a way that it leaves. But I never knew about this chemical thing.
yeah, yeah. I'll get you the I'll get you
Yeah,
the little
yeah,
blurb on it. It's
that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
So where
Wow.
it's important for us to cry, and
Yeah.
one of the things that we do when when we're at a funeral, we're sitting with someone who's grieving is, we might put our arm around them, but we're like, oh, it's okay, stop crying, right? And we get the tissue and we're,
Yeah.
and I always in my workshops say, I will have a box of Kleenex on the table, but I'm not going to hand you one.
Yeah.
And
You want
just,
it, you'll take it yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
just talk through, just keep giving that
Mhm.
grief its voice, and let it just come through, because it is so healing on so many levels.
And it's
Yeah.
important to let the rest of the people in the room know, leave them alone. Don't touch them.
Yeah.
Don't try to make it better because you
Yeah.
can't. And make sure
No.
that, you're holding space, but it's
Yeah.
not up to you to put your arm around them or like let them let it out. And it's hard because it's not really our nature. We want everything to be
Yeah.
fixed. I think
It
my
is.
daughter, when she was in grade 3 or 4, something happened and she was crying at school. And the teacher's aide said, "Don't do that because you're going to upset the other children." I immediately, when she came home and told me, went down to the principal and said, "You need to talk to this person because my daughter gets to cry if she wants to cry.
Yeah, I know.
And if
I
she
know.
needs to do that, like, I don't ever want to hear that somebody's told her she can't."
I
Uh,
know. And we're so programmed to not
we
cry,
are.
and like you were saying earlier, to, be strong, for
Yeah.
ourselves or for others. And it's like,
Yeah. We don't want to make other
why do we
people
have to be
uncomfortable.
strong when our hearts are broken?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense at all. Doesn't
No.
make sense at all.
No, because it's all stuff that comes from our head. That's all, these tools that aren't helpful that we think we have are just, they're all logical things. And,
They are.
logic doesn't help heal a broken heart. So, they're so ingrained in us from, our parents, our elders, our teachers, movies,
Yeah.
advertising, just, and when we stop and, think about what we say and what we do,
Mhm.
none of it's helpful.
Well, it's not. One of the shows I do on here is occasionally Friday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern is the good news. And some of these good news stories are really like, ugh. So I'll catch myself all of a sudden crying, going, "Oh, well, here I go again." Sorry, everybody, but this one really touched my heart. And
Yeah.
it's like an often thing. And I'm like, holy man, I really wish I could keep it together. But the truth is, I can't. Some of the stories are just so heartwarming and so beautiful that they do produce an emotion that shouldn't be hidden or
Yeah.
made to go away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, but I still catch myself going, okay, I'm the presenter here. I shouldn't be doing it. And
Which
then
just
I,
makes it even more beautiful, right? That you
Mhm.
bring that humanness, and you are the teacher that's letting everybody who's watching and listening know that it's okay,
It is
right?
okay.
We've
Yeah,
been so programmed that it's not okay.
yeah.
And, especially for, the men growing up with boys don't cry, and,
Oh,
be
no.
strong, and they feel just like everybody
Of
else.
course they do.
So,
Of course they do. And here they've been trained to just lock it down. We
yeah.
wonder why men sometimes get into fights with each other, physical fights and stuff. Well, of course, there has to be some kind of release.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's that cork flying out of the kettle, right? You never,
It is.
someone's just going to say something, or you're going to have a bad day, and and you're just going to lose it,
Yeah,
and it's
and
all
what
because we suppress so much.
exactly, exactly.
We can't
Yeah.
keep carrying all that stuff around with us.
Mhm.
It's
So
not a good
what are
thing.
some of the programs that you offer? I know you started a death cafe in Mexico. I couldn't say the name of the
Cafe Mortis. It's yeah. Well, that was interesting because it was originally someone had originally started one in the area that I go to, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can't call it a death cafe. That's just too uncomfortable." So Mortis in Spanish, it's
Yeah.
death. So that and it kind of fizzled out, and COVID hit and everything, and so yeah, it was just on the tail end of COVID. Where I went down to, just winter. And my girlfriend says, I've been talking to a few people, and I've been mentioning that you do death cafes here in Ontario. And I do them through our hospice here as part of our community education platform. So I said, sure, I'll have coffee with a couple people and talk to them about death cafes. So by the time I got to Mexico, my girlfriend says, oh, I think we have about 40 people registered. I'm like, for what? So that was kind of the birth of the Death Cafe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was wonderful, and we're going into our 4th year, and yeah, once a month we just get together and we talk about all things death and dying, and it's never a dull conversation, and never have the same conversation twice. And we have about, on average, 25 to 30 people will show up.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think the numbers have been that high here, but I haven't gone to one yet. But I debated starting one when I first heard about it, which was a few years back, and just got busy with other things and wasn't able to do it. But it's such a great place for people to talk about the things that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah. But again, it's like grief. We're just addressing the elephant in the room, right? We're taking something that's been taboo and just normalizing it. And, especially when it comes to death, I think it's, probably one of the hardest conversations, for us to have. Mm-hmm. And the Death Cafe is such a great way to have a conversation with a bunch of strangers, because it just kind of, you can just let whatever on your mind come out, and you hear other perspectives and opinions and stories, and just makes it easier to go home and have those conversations with our loved ones.
Absolutely.
That's the intention. So yeah, lots of positive feedback on them.
It really is a brilliant idea. And I think it's something that, it'd be nice to have more groups around and a greater awareness of it, so that people would really take advantage of it, because I think that's one of the things it sort of demystifies as well. We start to realize we're all going there. There are no exemptions.
Yeah.
And how we get there, we have no idea, but we're all going there. And it doesn't matter what our age is or the type of life we live. This is the direction we're headed. And to sit back and fear it, that's really painful. And
yeah, and it can be paralyzing, and it's, can stop us from getting our wills done and getting our, power of attorneys and, all that stuff in place. And it's so important for us to get our affairs in order, because we never know, right? And to have that all prepared for our loved ones, and I haven't in Ontario, but in Mexico, I co-facilitate some workshops where I do a guided meditation on taking people journey to their last time on earth, just before they die, and what's going on. Is there anything they need to say or do or have, or who needs to be there? What does that look like? And then we do an art piece so they can capture that. But
it's beautiful.
It's fun. So even beyond the, the legal paperwork stuff that we need to take care of, but what does our end of life look like? Like, if all situations being ideal, what do we want? Do we want to be at home? Do we want to be at hospice? Do we want to, fly back to our hometown? Do you want to be in the living room? Do you want to be in your bedroom?
Wow.
Whatever that looks like. Do you want music? What music? If you're eating food, what kind of food? Who do you want there? Who do you don't want there? It's all important stuff, right?
It's really important. It should be truly a celebration going out and a celebration coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
because really they're both kind of the same process.
Well,
Uh,
they are, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so
and
that
it
was
doesn't matter where, the ones left behind are always gonna grieve, and,
absolutely.
so but you can celebrate every life that, is in your life
It was
always.
truly, truly.
Yeah,
2 years ago, I did a living wake for a woman who had brain cancer and
mm,
was choosing MAID as her way, to complete her life process, and it was one of the most beautiful things I have ever experienced, and the feedback from the people in the room was, "You have to do this for everybody." This was so great. But when I walked in, you could feel the tension in the room because nobody knew what this would look like.
yeah,
But it was lovely. She went around in her wheelchair and chatted with every person, got to
nice.
tell them all the things she wanted to tell them. And then when I started to speak, I could just feel this level of anxiety. And so I started with a joke and it just broke everything open because it was really silly joke. And so everybody just laughed, and it was like popping a balloon, and all the air, all that tension left,
Yeah,
and there was now room to celebrate this beautiful woman that they loved so much, and to really be able to say goodbye in a way that honored what she wanted.
yeah,
And
that's
it
beautiful.
was spectacular, and I had no idea. I'm like, "I don't even know how to write this ceremony," because 'cause I'd never done anything like that before. But it was a wonderful experience, and I think for anyone there, it began the healing process before she even left the earth. She died
Absolutely.
8
Oh,
weeks
yeah,
later,
I
so
love that. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like with certain diseases and stuff, we know the result. When you have brain cancer that's metastasized, it is what it is, right?
yeah,
This is the time that we have to say goodbye. But there's still that, but I don't want you to leave kind of thing. And we resist
it's
death
hard.
so
Yeah, it's hard. I know, when I was studying the grief recovery method program, I, of course, go through the program, and we have to take a relationship. And I had done my father, ironically, because he was the first parent that I lost. Um, but just to work through the process of, just looking at my stories and, just all the things that were weighing heavy on my heart, I was able to resolve so much and have conversations with my dad before he died. And I was so at peace when he died, because we'd had so many great conversations, and we'd had some tough conversations too. We
yeah,
talked about, end of life, made, just like what did he want, and yeah, it was just so rich in love and such healing conversations that
I love that.
it made my grieving process like probably one of the best ones I've had.
Yeah, much
But
easier.
yeah, yeah, it makes it easier. Makes it easier when you know that they're complete and
Yeah,
that I'm feeling complete, like there's nothing left weighing heavy on my heart. So,
that's right. What needed to be said was said.
yeah, so
Well, we're
powerful.
going to take a little commercial break.
Okay.
And then we're going to come right back with more conversation. So don't go away. This is The Joy Show on the New Thought Media Network, and we're going to be back in just a minute.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome back to the Joy Show and my guest, Cheryl Pauchuk, and we've been talking about grief, but I want to transition a little bit into food and this incredible community drive you've put together that came out of COVID. Let's talk a little bit about food here. What did you do? What did you do?
Yeah, but I belong to a women's volunteer organization in here, and our whole mandate is just to create different events in the community to fundraise, and then we take all that money back into the community. And of course, during COVID, everything was canceled. So, so we were just thinking, what can we do? There's got to be some things we can do, and we didn't have a lot of tools or resources or funds. So just kind of played up on, I think it's Unionville or Newmarket or something have scarecrows, and Meaford up our way here has scarecrows on display just to attract people into the downtown core, into the local businesses. Yeah. So I just said, what if we had people create scarecrows and put them on their front lawn with food baskets, and we could create a map that we would sell by donation. And then people can drive around in their car, stay in their bubble with their little map and drive around and see all the scarecrows and leave them treats, because this was, October, end of October, Halloween timing. Yeah. And so that's what we did. We got everybody together. In our first year, we had almost 100 scarecrows on display. So 100 residents and business owners stepped up. I think mostly out of sheer boredom, gave them something to do. Yeah. And so we printed up our tour maps, and we got a sponsor to do the printing for us. And we had the stores that were open selling them for us and taking donations in a little collection jar. Yeah, so we did that for 11 days. So it's just kind of evolved over. We just finished our 5th year with this event. And it just keep evolving. So we've added another day, November 1st, which we call Donation Day, which I'm hoping is going to be a national holiday.
That'd be nice.
All the food collected from the scarecrows come to a central location, and everybody in the community is welcome to come by with food, cash, check, gift cards, whatever they want. And we sort all the donations and pack it up and share it with our food banks. We have 4 food banks up here where we live. And it's been just such an amazing community building experience. Yeah. And lots of fun.
I love that idea, because of course we know during COVID, and since, I mean, the price of food right now is huge. I'm seeing more and more really large gardens in people's yards, where
Yes.
they can grow their own food. I had a neighbor I was chatting to when I was out for a walk one day, and he said, come look in my backyard," and went in. He was growing corn, potatoes,
Wow.
bitter melon, like on and on and on. He had all of this food he was growing. And he said next year he was going to add, kale and stuff to his front yard, which had flowers and things. And he did have flowers after, but there's kale growing in there, which gave greenery. And it really gives you pause. And he said, the price of things had gotten so high, and some things were getting hard to get. We know
Yes.
we'd go to the store and we couldn't get things we wanted. And so here he was growing what he needed for his family. And he filled up a bag for me with potatoes and bitter melon and stuff that I took home. And it was just a lovely, number one, connection with a neighbor, but also to see what could be done with. Generally, we have a big lawn, and half the time we don't even go out and use it
I
unless we
know.
have small children or a pet or something. But
Yeah.
it was
That's
a real,
wonderful.
yeah. And I've noticed still as I'm walking around the neighborhood that there are people growing fruits and vegetables in their backyards now.
Way more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way more, which is great. I always say grass is really overrated. Our yards could be used so much better for growing food. And yeah.
And even environmentally,
Yeah.
one of the, we know how important bees are and how they're really being threatened. And a friend told us we were getting ready to rake up all our leaves. And a friend said, leave it on the grass. The bugs are under there, and then come spring, the bees uh, the bees will be, more prolific as a result of the food that will be there for them. So I don't know how it works, but we took them off the driveway, sidewalk and stuff, but it's on the grass, and then we haven't heard our neighbors complain yet, but that might come. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about that, and I just met a woman up here who actually has a forest garden, same concept,
Yeah.
where she takes all her grass clippings and twigs and branches that fall out of the tree during a windstorm and leaves, and it's just all piled. And she said every level is a whole infrastructure of
Yeah.
turning over a forest and just providing from the smallest micro living organism up to birds and squirrels and whatever's out there. And yeah, it's really fascinating when you get into what's possible, right? And we need to be
Yeah.
looking at alternatives for food consumption. And I'm a
Yeah.
huge advocate for eating real food.
Yes. Yes. Real food
You know,
is a good idea. It
well,
really makes a big
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, well, it's a domino effect. It's to me it ties into grief. If we're having difficult time managing, the losses and experiences we're having in our life. If our body isn't being fed nutritious food,
Exactly.
nothing works. Our mind doesn't work. We can't. We don't sleep properly. We can't focus. We can't.
And then we
Sort out
take
our
drugs to
emotions.
fix that.
What's that?
We take drugs to fix all that. We take
Well,
antidepressants.
that's it, right? Yeah.
We take diet pills because we've just gained weight because of all of
Yeah.
all of these things are sort of building a system that can't be maintained.
Yeah.
Whereas the healthy diet, I think about things that we go in and destroy, like we destroy mosquitoes. We want to get rid of wasps. We want to get rid of, like, there's all of these things we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of the coyotes. We want to get rid of the wolves. We're in this place of going, well, this is an inconvenience to humans, so let's get rid of it. But it's playing a role in the whole ecosystem. And if we want to have healthy, strong lives, then we have to be part of that system
Yeah.
rather than trying to destroy elements of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a domino effect, and like you said, the price of food and, food insecurity is just
It's huge.
huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. I've in conversation with, the Daily Bread Food Bank and, the Salvation Army food banks and different organizations across the country. And it's it just makes me sick by the time I'm finished a conversation or, hear someone's presentation. And, that's why I'm so passionate about Sharecos. It's just such a grassroots thing that everybody can do to come together to help alleviate, some pain that our neighbors are having. Like we're sitting at close to 1 in 5 people are reliant on a food bank for at least one meal a day.
Wow. And it's interesting. I serve on the board of directors of the Toronto People with AIDS Foundation, and we have a lot of new immigrants, refugees who've come into the country that we're supporting, and we have a food bank. And one of the challenges we have is providing food that these people actually know what to do with and what to eat. And I think as Canadians, we're willing to, give food to the food bank, but we're giving the wrong food more often than not. They don't want our white potatoes and our whatever canned thing that we like. They want something that's familiar to them, rice and beans and lentil, whatever. So I think there has to be some education as well, depending on the community you live in. There should be a real variety of food possible. We would have people come in to get food, and they would walk through and maybe take one item and go away hungry because they didn't know even what to do with this Canadian food, and what they needed wasn't there. So there's some education that could be done that would be helpful as well.
We have a few food banks up our way that are actually having cooking classes and inviting people who are using the food banks to come and just say, this is the general stuff that we get in. This is what gets donated. And here's like 2 or 3 different ways to use this, cook with it, prepare it, freeze it, slice it, dice it, whatever, which I think is great. A lot of people don't always show up for this. There might be a language barrier or, some people are using a food bank or working 2 or 3 jobs. So it's a time thing that makes it impossible. But there's got to be a lot of thought put into how we are dealing with our food banks and making them efficient and useful for people that are reliant on them. I know one of our other food banks here is making sandwiches for kids at school, and
that's great.
They're making like 1,200 sandwiches a week for kids. That's a lot. And learning process for them too, because what do kids like in sandwiches, or what's a healthy lunch that they can serve up. So
and of course, with some of our new immigrants, they don't eat sandwiches.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't even know what a sandwich is.
Exactly. And I know myself, having traveled a little bit, like when I was in Africa, it's like some of the food, I would go to eat it and go, like, the texture or the taste just didn't work for me. And then I ate other stuff that I'd never ever had. Like, I never eat cooked spinach, but they would serve cooked spinach at like every meal. But the way they did it was phenomenal. Like, I really, really loved it. It's like, I'd like to know how you did that so I can do it at home. But there were certain, so I think we make certain things. I had a friend who's Korean, and we would make sandwiches, and she'd go, like, it's disgusting to her. Like, it was like, I can't eat that, and I would just go, okay, what can I do for you? Because, I wanted to be supportive of my friend. And, so it's learning that we do live in a multicultural country. And how do we find ways to be more welcoming by providing what's actually needed and wanted? So, when I look at what I'm going to donate to the food bank at PWA, it's like, I want to make sure there's rice and maybe beans and stuff, because there's a lot of people from the Caribbean as well as people from Africa. And so finding food that, and then Indigenous people as well are wanting something else. So just, sort of education is such a powerful thing.
So powerful.
And donate money.
Well, I was going to say, money is always is always a good thing because it allows a food bank to buy specific to their community and who's coming in.
Exactly.
And it lets them, they can stretch a dollar, way better than we can, if they get
Absolutely.
discounts at grocery stores, or they can, they shop for sales and buy in bulk and,
Yeah.
different things that we might not always be, able to do. But the
Mhm.
other things that are great to give to food banks are like diapers, baby formula,
Formula,
baby
yes.
bottles, little onesies. Feminine hygiene is so
Socks.
needed. And just toiletries, dish soap, laundry soap,
Yeah,
shampoo, razors, deodorant,
yeah,
all of that stuff is really, really appreciated. So
yeah,
it
and I
doesn't
think
have to
you
just be
guys
food.
yeah. I went to a Canada Day event at one of our congregants, and it was fill a purse with those essentials. And so come to this event, but bring a purse with you. And so it was really, really cool to turn around and take a purse and fill it up with, deodorant and shampoo and tampons and pads and, all of these things that a woman might need. And I think they, at this house party, they collected, I don't know, something like 18 purses
Wow, that's great.
filled with things that were then donated. I can't remember the name of the overall donation that they went to, but it was kind of fun to go and get a purse and go, okay,
Yeah,
what can I put in here that would be of value? And that was a really fun thing. And she does it every year on
yeah,
Canada
that's
Day.
great.
And yeah,
Yeah.
just a great way
Through our
to.
food bank, I encourage people with the holidays coming, instead of taking a bottle of wine or a dessert, if you're going to someone's, Christmas party or whatever, tell your guests to bring a stocking full of non-perishable items, and you can take them all to the food bank,
Oh, what a great idea.
yeah. If you're having an open house or going somewhere or having people in, yeah, it's so much more appreciated. And we don't need anything, and there's so many people at this time of year that
That's it.
need. So
Yeah.
it's the time to give, and it's so important. Or coat drives. We've got a restaurant up here that's bring your coats in, and I don't forget they're offering a discount, but they're doing a coat drive, and I'm
It's
working with
fabulous.
them to find a place to to hand off the coats. So
Well, that's one of the things too that we've done a lot of. Any place that's dealing with immigration, because we have a lot of that these days, is to turn around and provide clothing and coats and gloves and boots and all of.
yeah,
I mean, all of us have got stuff in our closets we're not using.
yes, way too
That
much stuff.
way too much stuff. Pierre and I moved from, a house with a full basement to a house without a basement. And so we had to get rid of a lot. And while we were doing that, we just donated all of it to PWA going here. And they took truckloads of stuff. They would rent these cube vans from U-Haul and fill them, freezer and you name it. All of it had to go because we didn't have room for it. And but the feeling, the warm feeling of knowing that somebody who has nothing will
Yeah,
now have something.
yeah,
And I remember being at a World AIDS Day event December 1st of last year, and there was a gentleman there who was wearing sandals and he was barefoot. And it was, I don't know, -8 or 9, like it was really, really cold. And I had an extra pair of socks in my bag because I thought I might need to wear 2 pair of socks. It was so cold. I didn't think my boots would be good enough. So I gave him those socks. And, it's a small thing, but for him, it did make a difference.
yeah. Well,
Little
and I
things
think I
we do.
think it's so important for us to educate ourselves
Yeah.
to, we're talking about grief and being educated, and with the food insecurities and who's actually using food banks. And I've been in conversations where questions are being asked and says, well, I see people show up in their sports car or their SUV or whatever, and it's and it's like, well, that might be their home. So you don't know, so to just, watch ourselves where we're having judgment, or, you see, someone on the street with a dog, and, we've all done that, saying, wow, if they can't feed themselves, they shouldn't have a dog. But that dog, is anybody who has a pet knows how sane a dog can keep us. And, it's, could be the thing that's keeping them from, doing something horribly drastic. And even just having a cell phone, right? A lot of times they're given a cell phone, it's paid for, but that's their lifeline. That's their lifeline to the world, because they have nobody. So, there's so many people in so many situations that we can't even begin to fathom.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as you mentioned, pets, because, there's another thing that we could donate. Dog food.
Yes, we get one of our local businesses up here, Global Pet Food. Actually, shout out to them and their supplier Horizon. For every bag of Horizon food that's bought during our 11-day Sharecrow's food drive, they match poundage.
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
It's phenomenal. I'm actually just waiting for our tally to see. But I think last year they gave us like 600 plus pounds of food.
Wow.
Like pet food, dog and cat food. Yeah.
And the thing is, what we've learned through COVID is that, people lost their jobs. It didn't mean they were homeless, but it didn't mean they could buy food.
Yeah.
They might be able to keep the roof over their head, but now they're scrambling. Like, how do I feed my pet? Or how do I feed my children? So that judgment that we can have, that, we'll go into judgment going, oh, you're driving an SUV. What are you doing at the food bank? I think it takes strength to go to a food bank.
It does. It does. It's
somebody who's never needed to do that, to have to go, that's a little bit humiliating, maybe, to take that step forward.
Well, we just think of the statistics that, like I said, if we're sitting at 1 in 5, you dependent on a food bank. Now, a majority of that's kids, but it's like, that's your neighbor.
That's your neighbor.
That's your neighbor.
Yeah.
That's more than one of your neighbors.
Absolutely.
How long your street is. And the CEO of the Toronto Daily Bread Food Bank released some phenomenal stats that, just shocking. But the highest increase of food bank users in 2023 was double income families.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't even survive on that anymore.
No.
When we moved, we rent, and when we moved, our rent went up $1,400 a month for less house.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy what's happening.
How do people manage that? When you've figured out your budget and you're living to your means, and then all of a sudden something happens where that gets upped significantly. Now we've been able to manage that, but not everybody can.
Yeah. Or you have one emergency, and there goes your little nest egg. It's
yes. We live in a world where we have to really work together.
We do. And that's, like I said, Sharecrows, like I said, such a passion, because it's a community grassroots thing that it's fun, it's interactive. It's an opportunity for us to restock our food banks. And the nonprofit that's coming into the Sharecrows family with the funds that raise, it's my hope that all the money goes to the food bank, but we're inviting them in on the premise that keep whatever money that you raise, from the food drive to fuel other programs, we need to keep feeding our community, not just food, but with creativity and change and that interaction. Right? It's so important for us to have that.
I love that. Well, you're doing remarkable work. It's like we could stay on here for a couple of hours, I think, to discuss all of the remarkable things that you're doing. And I would really like to, I'm going to go on and check out Sharecrows, because I think that's something brilliant that, could be done here as well. It's, the area that I live in, I know there's lots of need. And so just being able to provide something more that's kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So I've got a little bit of time to work on
Yeah.
it.
Well, I invite, yes, because the food drive is always the same dates. It's October 20th to the 31st.
Yeah.
So it's kind of after Canadian Thanksgiving and before US Thanksgiving. So it's a great time to restock food banks. But and it's we're rolling it out this year. So we're inviting all nonprofits across the country to come join the family, be a sharecrow.
Yay! Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I'll get some details and I'll share it
Yeah.
in our community as
That'd
well.
be wonderful.
So we're coming up to the end of the show,
Mhm.
and we're, I always like to ask, what is one thing that you think is the most important thing shared today that people could take away? Like, what would be the most important takeaway from today's show?
Yeah, well, just to circle back to grief, I just want everybody to know that grief is a normal and natural reaction to loss, and life is full of losses. And don't shy away from what you're feeling. Don't hide. And there are resources out there. I think you're going to share my website. I've got free resources on my website. And don't grieve alone. Don't grieve alone. Yeah.
I love that, Cheryl. Thank you. And I think too, reminding people that when somebody around you is in grief, just be present. There's
Yeah.
no words that you can say that are going to make a difference. Don't try to make it better, make it go away, because you can't.
No.
And just to share space. And then don't even ask them what they need, because frankly, they don't know.
They don't do. Yeah.
Yeah, just look around and see if you see something that needs to be done, do it.
Do it.
Or,
Yeah.
if you can think of something that might make it easier for them, do that.
Yeah.
But just sit with them. Sit with them and have a conversation, and don't, and if they're crying, let them. And, what did you say about those tears? That there's that chemical.
Just let them fall. They're very healing. I'll get you that. I'll get you that info so you can share that.
It's healing.
So
I've always said that tears are healing. So let them flow.
Now science has proved it. So it must be true.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, you are doing phenomenal work, and I'm just so grateful you decided to join me on the show today, because I know this is going to have an impact as well on people. So Cheryl, thank you so much. And her website is, on here. We've scrolled it many times, so be sure to check that out. Check out Scarecrows, and you call it Sharecrows.
Sharecrows, that's 11 days where we transform scarecrows into sharecrows.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. And I'm sure every kid in the neighborhood will love walking by and seeing whatever people have created.
Yeah.
Oh, this is.
They learn to give too at Halloween. It's not just about taking, right?
Yes. Give. Yeah. Well, that's our time for today. Thank you for watching. Cheryl, thank you for being here. And for our producer, Deja, thank you so much for all that you do, my love. And hey, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And think about how you're donating, how you're showing up in life, and allow yourself to just be, because that's the most healing thing you can do. I love you, bless you, and have a most wonderful weekend, everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now. Bye, Cheryl.
Bye.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.